You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
We now wander off the beaten path with an update from the Reefer Reporter.
Hello and welcome to the Reefer Reporters. It's August 11th, 2022, and we are live here on the network's YouTube channel and Facebook pages from the Legacy420.com news desk. And you probably noticed there was a new name or an older name on the intro, as well as you're seeing a familiar face here on the Reefer Reporters, and that is Miss Cindy Howell. Good day, Cindy. How you doing?
Good morning, Al. How are you?
Good. And Glenn is here as well.
Good morning.
Good morning, Glenn. Good morning. I'm only here temporarily just to announce to let everybody know that Cindy is back here on the Reefer Reporters, and her and Glenn are going to team up on the Thursday reports going forward. And Cindy's done this before, so other than maybe a few little glitches, I'm sure you're going to do just fine.
Yeah, I can read the news. That's what got me in here in the first place. Just come on in and just read the news, Cindy. So
just read
back at it.
That's right. And by reading the news, you help educate other people. And as Glenn has even noticed, educate yourselves.
Yes.
We all.
I learn every single broadcast. I learn something new, or more than one.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought I'd come on today to let everybody know that Cindy will be returning to her Thursday spots here with Glenn. The two of them are going to be teaming up, and they'll be here every week. I'm reducing my time, partially due to medical reasons. I have medical appointments that will happen on Thursdays, and having Cindy on here, she has, as I said, the experience, and she'll be able to slide right in without missing a beat. Right?
We hope. There might be some issues going on. We might walk on each other, but it'll be good for a smile and a giggle, and give us a few weeks, and Glenn and I will have our little our back and forth pretty much down pat.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, you will. And just like everybody else, things will run smoothly. I trust that they will. You guys will be fine. You'll be fine. No practices or anything. No different than Glenn and I, really. We didn't have much in the way of practice or any practice when Glenn started. And, hey, include the bloopers, right?
That's right. That's what keeps it human and keeps people smiling and giggling. Yeah.
It's part of the fun of life.
That's right.
That's right. Exactly. So I'm gonna split. I'm gonna head off, get the dog out there, go for a walk, check the girls, whatever. And you two continue on the news. I'll have the earbuds on and I'll be tuned in.
Excellent.
Right?
Thanks, Al.
Okay. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Glenn. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good morning. So we are your Thursday morning Reefer Reporters. How are you doing this morning, Glenn?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic this morning. And yourself?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. I was an hour ahead of myself, as we know. I was like, okay, Reefer Reporters at 10, Ontario time. And I am in Nova Scotia. I think I forgot what province I was sitting in. So I was all ready for 10 a.m. Nova Scotia time. I was a little bit early.
I've done that a few times myself.
Yeah.
More than once, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, me too. Usually leaving me late. So it's kind of strange to be an hour early. But off we go for the morning. So we should jump into the first story. Hey. Sure. Okay. Clicking buttons. We are heading over this morning to StratCan for the cannabis community. And the headline this morning is the price right? Retail cannabis feels the squeeze.
And as some markets are saturated with bricks and mortar outlets and intense price competition, retail cannabis is feeling the squeeze. The retailers, and unfortunately their staff, are the pointy end of the stick, says Ross Hendry, who's a head sales and marketing at Wagner's, and Highland Grow. they're the last touch point to the consumer. And so they are feeling it as much, if not more, than anyone in the industry.
Yeah. An unfair situation in British Columbia. A government's power of taxation can create an odd scenario wherein the table can be tilted against the free market competition. In BC, in addition to the excise tax, GST, and PTST, the BC Liquor Distribution Board adds another 15% markup.
Get their money.
It is the taxes, including the 20% BC vape tax. Here in Nova Scotia, it's a 30% vape tax.
Wow.
That are my biggest concerns, says Andrea Dobbs, managing director at the Village Bloomery in Vancouver. The BCLDB, I said that right, marks up 15% for its wholesale price, and then they mark up anywhere from 15 to 30% for their retail. Holy
wow. And Dobbs recently had to close a store in Victoria on Vancouver Island. There are at least 30 dispensaries in Victoria, serving a population of 95,000, which is way above the state of Colorado's suggested ratio of one shop per 10 to 15,000 people, she says. As it stands in Vancouver, we are profitable, pay a living wage, and can keep our store properly staffed. We see stores that have only one person on staff due to limited resources, which is very concerning.
It is, and they go through a lot of the same stuff in Toronto. When I was there last, I went for a walk over 2 blocks and walked past like 5 stores.
I noticed when I was in Ontario last time, the proportion of stores per people is astronomical compared to anywhere else in Canada.
Absolutely. It's crazy.
I think there's 1,400 licensed stores there.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see a lot of them closing just due to lack of sales because there's just too many stores, right? The Village Bloomery has a big chain outlet, Fire and Flower, close to its location in Vancouver. Dobbs says she can compete well enough due to the knowledge and experience of her bud tenders, as well as the Village Bloomery highly curated inventory, something that can be lacking in big chains. However, competing directly with the government presents unique challenges. It sure does. It's uncommon to have a wholesaler compete directly against you, she says. I have worked in retail, clothing, for example, where you usually sell for a decent price. I help out. I left the station and took a hiatus to help out at my friend's head shop, which I've decided to stay on once a week because it's fun to get paid to play with bongs, to be honest, right? So I understand the retail markup there, and yeah, it's nowhere near as great as what the government just themselves is doing on cannabis, right?
Yeah.
She said, if, for example, where you usually sell for decent price, the manufacturer suggested retail price, and then if it doesn't move, you can clear it at a loss. But that's not the case with cannabis in BC. There are all kinds of powers at the wholesale level that they have, and we don't. I wish they would just pick one, be wholesale or be retail.
Yeah. I kind of like the both. I like the farm gate situation where they are the wholesalers and they're the retailers too.
Yeah, that you are extremely lucky to have that going on in New Brunswick. It's not happening in every province, sadly. Here in Nova Scotia, they aren't even considering it yet at the moment. We're still in liquor stores, right?
Yeah.
So and honestly, I can't say what I know is going on past New Brunswick in that case. But yeah, the farm gate, when I drive up to Toronto this September, I'm excited to go past some farm gate stores and stop and see them.
Yeah, I haven't been to one yet, but I like the concept. And the problem here is there's only 3 in the whole province. So it's too far to go. Anyway, it's difficult to compete with the government when they have to buy from the same source that supplies BC cannabis stores with the full inventory of products available in the province, says Dennis Park, who's the founder of a craft greenery Cannabis in Vancouver. Park and his business partner, who's Mark Ocroft, says they have seen a lot of cases where BC cannabis stores are able to retail SKUs at a much lower price than the independent retailers. And they would like to have the excise tax associated with participants of the direct sales program cut. and a level playing field. That's what everybody wants, a level field.
Absolutely. And honestly, the last time I was in Vancouver, I mean, like I have stepped in, I shouldn't say the last one, it was last July, actually, when I was in Vancouver. I went into a couple of the BC stores, both the government owned and the privately owned. And the privately owned are just much nicer.
I found that every single place I've gone to, I found that.
Yeah. The government stores, I don't care where you are very cold and liquor store-ish feeling. And it's not the place I want to go to buy my cannabis, to be honest. I want to go in and meet the hippie chick. Even if you're selling government cannabis, I want to meet the hippie people with the cool store.
Exactly.
Yeah, there should be no relevant operational and commercial differences between provincially run and compliant permitted independents, says Park. We'd like to see the independent distribution without arbitrary and illogical limits on capacity or volume throughout. Retailers contacted for this story don't believe the government stores in BC are being directly subsidized. However, as a branch of government try to legislate monopoly, the BCLDB's control over wholesale margins, access to commercial real estate, and ability to operate at reduced overall profitability results in an endeavor that is likely not competitive or profitable in an open market.
It's definitely not a profitable thing. We found that out in New Brunswick here.
Yeah.
The pricing matrix for BC cannabis stores is such that it's difficult to compete, given that we purchase our inventory from the same government entity and we're competing against at the retail level, said Eckerd Richardson, who's the co-owner of Sunrise Cannabis in Vancouver. We've been serving East Vancouver for 7 years, and it's more difficult than ever to pay living wages, particularly when a government store 4 times the size of ours moves into the neighborhood with a bigger menu and unsustainable prices.
Yeah. Richardson has submitted a complaint to the Competition Bureau in which he presented numerous examples of identical products that are being sold wholesale by the BCLDB and retail at BCCS outlets, but for prices that are either identical or within marginal markups. If you look at Oregon, Washington, Colorado, or BC's cannabis industry should not be operating. None of our industry. Cannabis industry should be operating at a loss, particularly in its 4th fiscal year of legalization, says Richardson. Taxpayers should take notice of what's happening. And I mean, he's right, because legalization has brought on a lot of patients that we never, ever would have had without legalization. I personally remember, legalization hit and hours into stores opening up with legal cannabis sales. I had family and friends that were against cannabis calling me and asking for advice and recipes and how to make butter. And it was absolutely insane. So if these little guys, if these independent guys were allowed to be the people serving them, and then the government was just, like they say, the wholesaler, the money that would be, that could be made and the lives that could be, changed is astronomical.
Unfortunately, government likes to have control of most things. And I've had the exact experience that you were talking about with my mother and her friends who are all in their late 70s and 80s. And they still, to this day, ask me questions constantly about it.
Mm-hmm.
And almost all of them have tried it in one form or another now that had never have tried it before legalization.
Yeah, 100%.
BC recently announced that it will allow producers to ship products directly to BC retailers, with the retailers then able to deliver those products to consumers. Taxation issues aside, this may provide some relief, but the continued build out of large footprint BC cannabis stores still has Richardson worried. We're thankful for the community that has supported us over the years, he says, but this trend of expanding BC cannabis stores is devaluing the cannabis coming to the market and making it harder on everyone within the supply chain, cultivars, manufacturers, and retailers to justify quality product and service to the consumers.
Back in February of 2018, the Minister of Justice and Solicitor General of Alberta, Kathleen Gainley, addressed this issue directly at Cannabis Retailers Telephone Town Hall. The AGLC, which is the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis, will be empowered to react to market issues such as price manipulation by setting minimum prices as necessary, said Gainley. The pricing of cannabis needs to strike the right balance between combating the illegal market and preventing monopolies in the legal retail market. For some retailers in BC, the scale appears to have been weighted in the government's favor. I think we can all agree on that one. It remains a fact that BC cannabis stores pricing has been driving the race to the bottom on cannabis products, says Jacelyn Pota, I think, Executive Director of the Retail Cannabis Council of BC. They are setting unreasonable expectations for the consuming public.
And the big chains are applying pressure in Ontario and Alberta. The big chains, perhaps aware of the difficulty in competing with the BC cannabis stores, have a bigger presence in Alberta and Ontario, where they too are able to deploy deep pockets to put pressure on smaller retailers. We will see more stores close, said Will Forsyth, the owner of Peak Cannabis in Calgary, which closed in July. When we opened, there were under 100 cannabis stores in Alberta. Now there are almost 200 in Calgary alone, including 4 discount outlets within 10 minutes of me. For Forsyth, the reasons for closing included a desire to spend more time with family. However, a cumbersome rollout by Alberta Gaming and Liquor and Cannabis, combined with the ongoing pressures on margins, made it difficult to continue.
We are doing our best to operate at margins around 25% and modulating to be competitive on higher profile SKUs and new stuff, he says. But then we would have to change. We would have to charge less to compete with the value chains and would have margins as low as 8 or 10%. It's a similar story in Ontario. We are trying to stay competitive on pricing, but the big chains make it challenging, says Brendan Hartman of Circa 1818 in Cobourg. One concern of ours is that some big chains are also in the data business, and the LPs will pay big money for that. A big chain retail store could then theoretically sell with lower margins, given that there is support from this other line of business.
And the value of data is undeniable. For example, the recent case of data misappropriation from the Ontario Cannabis Store, which included rank sales for every retail outlet in the province, is subject to a criminal investigation. We hope the OCS investigation goes somewhere, says Hartman. After the breach, we saw a change in the industry in that we got all kinds of attention as an A-level store. However, whoever distributed that information, there should be huge implications. Given the force aligned against small retailers, it is essential to compete in other areas where larger chains struggle. As in any retail environment, the success of an independent operator is largely dependent on customer loyalty, the quality of the service, and the competence of the well-being of staff.
People love, people love to come to the store to chat with the owner and to see the same faces, says Hartman. I will personally deliver orders in 20 to 40 minutes. As well, Hartman believes that the OCS flow-through program could be a big help for smaller retailers. The OCS has a large, selection of inventory. And with the flow-through program, it allows everyone to sell a little differently, he says. Here in Cobourg, it also works because so far, people have been respectful of pricing. With plenty of product differentiation and no undercutting. There is no race to the bottom here. This is good news and suggests that, as so many hope, there really is room for everyone, even with the pricing pressure. Unfortunately, even some of the most experienced retailers, such as Village Bloomery in BC and Peak in Calgary, have had to close their doors.
And they had great staff, all of them consumed and knew their stuff, says Forsyth from Peak Cannabis in Calgary. But we are now living in a world where people just don't want to save money. They need to save money.
Yep.
True.
Yeah. It's a scary world out there right now.
I think the cannabis industry as a whole, especially in a couple provinces, are in for a lot of closures of stores. Because there seems to be an oversupply, especially in Ontario and Alberta, to the same, to a smaller extent, but the same thing. There's an overabundance of stores, and there's going to be a market correction.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. I think you were telling me before we came on air that there's 1,400 stores in the Toronto area alone.
I don't know the exact number, but it's right around 1,400.
Ish.
And that's in Ontario.
In the whole province.
Yeah, in the province of Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 40 stores here in Nova Scotia. 40.
Yeah.
40.
I don't know how many there is here, but I know there's probably 30 on the reserve down the street from me.
Yeah, I'm not counting the gray area Aboriginal owned. We've got quite a few of those as well. But as for the legal government, approved, there's 40 of them for the whole
I don't
province.
go to the government ones. I've been there actually 3 times now, and I've never purchased anything because they never had anything that I wanted, and I didn't even feel comfortable walking in. It's like if you've been to the stores in New Brunswick, they're marble and concrete monoliths. When you walk in there, everything's in glass, marble. It's absolutely crazy. It's not a place I'm comfortable in. It makes the most fancy liquor stores here look like crap. And this is what they spent all their money on, instead of actually researching the product and the people they're selling to. Most of us, I believe, are pretty simple folks. We like, regular stuff. We're not fancy. I'm trying to say that we're not fancy people.
Yep.
So I didn't feel, walking in there. I feel a lot more comfortable on the reserve every time.
Yeah.
I'm making.
I have gone in a couple of times to the ones here in Nova Scotia, because there's some of them that the cannabis store is up front in the liquor store, so you don't actually have to walk through.
Okay.
Because I do have a couple of friends that own some of the licensed producers here. So I wanted to try their product. 2 of them are actually Aboriginal owned, so I was really excited to try their stuff. Overpriced, but they did a really good job. These smaller craft companies of getting the product out there. But I much prefer, as almost anybody, going to the Aboriginal dispensaries, because you actually get to see and smell and know what you're purchasing before you actually purchase.
And most times I'm talking to a person who's actually tried that actual product that I'm buying.
Exactly.
And I can get some kind of insight on, flavor profiles and things like that I enjoy.
Yeah, that you can't get with the government. Yeah. But we'll head on to High Times. And over at High Times, they are telling us about this cyber attack. The cyber attack leaves Ontario cannabis stores unable to fill orders.
Ontario's only cannabis wholesaler and online retailer announced on Monday it is unable to process or deliver orders to cannabis retailers and consumers because of a cyber attack on one of its technology partners. Ontario's only that's almost the same line. Online retailer Legal Cannabis is unable to process orders to make deliveries to cannabis shops and consumers after one of its technology partners was hit by a cyber attack. The Ontario Cannabis Store announced a shutdown on Monday following the August 5th cyber attack on the parent company of its third-party distribution center, which is Domain Logistics.
Domain Logistics did not immediately respond to requests from reporters for more information on the cyber attack. The OCS said it is working with Domain Logistics and independent cybersecurity experts to determine the extent of the breach, adding that there is no evidence that that its computer systems were targeted or that customer data had been compromised. However, out of an abundance of caution to protect OCS and its customers, the decision was made to shut down Domain Logistics operations until a full forensics investigation could be completed, the OCS stated in a statement.
And OCS is Ontario's only online retailer of regulated cannabis and the sole wholesaler for the province's more than 1,300 licensed cannabis shops. The outage of the OCS online sales platform is a critical challenge for the retailers who rely on the wholesaler to keep their shops stocked with licensed cannabis products. Elsa Key of Kay's Pot Shop in Toronto noted that retailers have no other supplier to turn to for merchandise for their store shelves. When you're the only wholesaler and you've got a firm grasp on who can get delivery and when we can get delivery, it leaves us zero options, Key said. We're totally at their mercy.
A letter to cannabis retailers from the OCS obtained by the Canadian Press said, as a goodwill gesture, the OCS will waive retailer delivery fees until September 30th and a $500 processing fee for one emergency order per store between September 1st and March 31st, 2023. But many cannabis shop owners believe the fee waivers are not adequate compensation for the losses they are experiencing during this outage. He said that if stores do not have the products consumers are looking for, they are likely to shop elsewhere. In Ontario's overcrowded cannabis market, losing customers to rival licensed retailers or the illicit market even is not sustainable.
And you just read a line that flabbergasts me here. It says $500 processing fee they're waiving. So does that mean every time they place an order, there's a $500 processing fee?
No, it says here there's a $500 processing fee for one emergency order. So it's just if they're looking to, I guess, place a fast order, which by the sounds of it, they're all, like, so if you're like, okay, like, listen, I know I'm 500th in line, but you got to make me first, and you got to make me first now. You have to pay a fee. But by the sounds of it, I think they're all going to, as soon as, once things are available to start going again, they're all going to need this. So no wonder they're waiving it, because every single one of them is going to be like, okay, put everybody on overtime and make them go fast. Like, give them roller skates or something, because we need this stuff yesterday. Yeah.
There's no sort of compensation that can fix damaging someone's business, said Key, adding that the outage is causing serious disruption to the business supply chain logistics. I don't like to order massive quantities of any one thing because I rotate a lot of things through. So when I get disrupted, it means that the shelves are going to be bare, said Key. Cameron Brown, who's the vice president of the Retail Cannabis Council of Ontario, said that the pause in deliveries caused by the domain logistics cyberattack could lead to a significant shortage of cannabis in Ontario if it continues through the week. The next worry for a lot of retailers is that their next inventory shipment is going to come. To get through not only this week, but another big weekend in August, which is one of the busiest times so far in cannabis, said Brown.
And then we're not even talking about September, when like one of the biggest festivals in Canada hits, right? Without fresh product deliveries, Key's afraid that low inventory levels will soon impact the shop's ability to satisfy its patrons. It means that some customers are going to come in, shake their head, upset they're not getting what they want, and they're going to go somewhere else because they don't want to hear that it's not my fault and there was a cyber attack. A patient wants what they need, right? High Tide Incorporated, a Canadian cannabis corporation with an international reach, is reallocating inventory in some of its lower volume Canna Cabana retail shops to busier stores because of the uncertainty surrounding cannabis product deliveries, according to an email to reporters from Omar Khan, the company's vice president of corporate and public affairs.
But Sean Cady is co-owner of Toronto cannabis retailer Cosmic Charlie, said that moving product from one store to another is not an option for retailers with only one location, of course. Additionally, independent shops frequently do not keep large quantities of product on hand, preferring instead to place smaller orders for their merchandise. It's fresher that way, I would assume. They're on a more tight fixed budget. So from week to week, we can only spend so much. And if you're not getting that product that you need, what are you supposed to do? And how are you supposed to pay the rent, he said. Katie said that his store was nearly overstocked on Tuesday, but added that he has heard of business owners who are freaking out and pulling their hair out because they're already shrinking supply of cannabis products. Yeah,
absolutely. You've got the small independent store, and what can Joe Blow do? But like, he's only got a small amount of money. It's not like he's got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over there to invest and make sure that they've got back supply, right? So yeah,
I find it pretty funny that there's no backup at all to this system. If there's only one place to place an order, there should be a backup. Here's a second phone number. Phone this number.
This is the way it is in, I think, every province. In Nova Scotia, we have the Nova Scotia government that's the supplier. They're the only wholesaler. PEI is the same, et cetera, et cetera. And, the government has a monopoly that way. And it's sad that they're also, in some provinces, trying to take the monopoly on the retail level. But, yeah, all of the provinces are like this. So...
And we all know how good our governments are at making things run smoothly and operating properly, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. We're going over here to MJ Biz Daily. Auxly sells Nova Scotia outdoor cannabis farm for less than it invested.
Canadian marijuana operator Auxly Cannabis Group sold an outdoor cultivation site in Hortonville, Nova Scotia, for proceeds of 4.1 million Canadian dollars, significantly less than it invested in the facility. As of 2021, Auxly had spent roughly 11.4 million to build and develop the Auxly Annapolis OG outdoor cultivation facility, and anticipated spending 3.5 million more to finish it, according to regulatory filings. The sale to a private buyer comes shortly after Auxly sold its indoor cultivation site in Nova Scotia in July for proceeds of 6 million. The total was also less than Auxly spent on the facility.
Auxly, previously Cannabis Wheaton Income Corp, bought that indoor facility in a $14 million deal to acquire Robinson's Cannabis in 2018. The nearby outdoor site was announced in 2019. Toronto-based Auxly closed both Nova Scotia facilities in February, resulting in the loss of 55 jobs. Oh yeah, Robinson's closing was hard for a lot of people. I remember that. At the time, Auxly disclosed that it never commenced cultivation activities at the outdoor site, instead utilizing the space for additional storage and processing capacity.
And CAA 10.1 million in proceeds from selling both Nova Scotia sites will be used to support Auxly's ongoing operation, the company said in a Wednesday news release. In a statement, Auxly CEO Hugo Alves said the company committed to identifying opportunities to reduce costs, streamline operations, and source additional capital in a non-dilutive way, as it aims for positive adjusted EBITDA, which is earnings before interests, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like they weren't too successful at their Nova Scotia facilities.
No, Robinson's did really great when it first came out, but it started doing not so great, and the people sold, obviously, and the people in Toronto didn't think it was worth keeping.
Sounds like they sold at the right time.
Yeah, or at the wrong time. They lost a lot of money on that.
Oh, I mean the first owners.
The original people. Yeah. Hopefully they got everything they needed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're heading over to Mugglehead magazine. I love this particular magazine. Halo Collective set to open its third bodega pot shop in Los Angeles.
Okay, Halo Collective Incorporated is set to open a third pot shop in Los Angeles, which is also its first superstore due to the larger square footage of the location. On Wednesday, the vertically integrated pot producer announced that it has received all permits and licenses for the opening of its new Bodega Hollywood shop after it passed its Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation inspection. The company is expected to have up to 15 million in annual sales per year after a ramp-up period.
The store is set to open later this year. The location features an iconic floral-themed mural by Oakland artist Jet. I didn't miss the last name because I was scrolling back up. I wanted to show everybody like the pretty mural. It's absolutely gorgeous. Let's go back down and get this last name. Martinez. This is a significant milestone towards our third planned bodega opening in the LA market. It will be the first superstore format for bodega as well, Halo CEO Katie Field said. As we complete the build out of this flagship location, we plan to simultaneously prepare the groundwork for opening, including hiring, training, and back end infrastructure, she said.
And they're extremely pleased with the location and design of their flagship dispensary and look forward to welcoming Hollywood locals and tourists alike. According to the Department of Tax and Fee Administration, California is the highest grossing state for cannabis retail sales in the United States, with legal retail sales of $5.2 billion in 21, up 17% from 2020. California is projected to grow $7 billion in cannabis retail sales in 2025.
I have no doubt. I mean, they are the British Columbia. Are comparable to RBC.
And they have the population.
They do. And as much as I love Nova Scotia, and I do love the Maritimes, when I go out to BC, it's like you're walking into a whole new country when it comes to cannabis and mushrooms. Things are we're in the same country and they get similar legal stores, but the whole, and it's because of the population, the whole vibe around cannabis and the whole world around cannabis out there is completely different than it is here in the Maritimes.
Yeah. And I think that started a long time ago down there.
Yeah. And so it's the same with California. California is completely different than the rest of the United States. Yeah. Yeah. Insane. So I'm clicking buttons. I'm catching up. I really am. This is my first show back.
You're doing fine.
Thanks. Okay, so we're heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. Let's bring it up into, here we go. We are heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. CBD prices are stabilizing after years of decline, but is it progress?
Years-long tailspin for CBD prices is showing signs of leveling off, but it's too soon to say whether the CBD market is rebounding or if companies making CBD products have simply cut so deeply that they're now holding or increasing prices just to survive. The pricing trend was noted recently by the Brightfield Group, a Chicago-based cannabis analytics firm that crunches prices on thousands of websites and brick-and-mortar stores selling CBD.
There were some massive price cuts that took place during the COVID-19 pandemic, and those look to be ending, said Brightfield's managing director, Bethany Gomez. Gomez compared the CBD market landscape to that of apparel, where discounting it so prevalent that consumers resist paying what they perceive to be full price. Similar story has played out in the cannabis market. U.S. and Canadian cannabis retailers have been discounting their products, like reflecting the rapidly growing number of adult use brands and products available to retailers.
And in the CBD market, Gomez says widespread discounting through 2020 really trained consumers to hunt for discounts. Brightfield noted that 40 to 50% price declines for CBD products in 19 and 20. Although the second quarter of 2022 Brightfield noted the prices were holding somewhat steady. According to a pricing review of 100 brands and 100 brick and mortar retailers, plus digital menu audits, CBD price stabilization comes as wholesale CBD inputs remain cheap, but inflation pressures are driving up other costs for CBD makers.
Yeah, not all manufacturers are ready to say that CBD pricing won't keep falling, however. I think price is going to continue to get compressed, said Bahart AR, general manager of Vermont-based Sunsoil, which grows hemp and makes CBD. He tracks CBD pricing on his own and believes stabilizing prices might be a sign that surviving CBD makers have already cut prices as far as they can. He noted that many public traded CBD companies have yet to show profits. These are companies that are not profitable. They are burning millions of dollars every quarter, he says.
And if they reduce their prices, they're just going to get deeper into the red. IR agreed with another conclusion Brightfield made from its pricing surveys. The CBD market won't expand as many hoped without action by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to regulate over-the-counter consumable CBD products, which include tinctures, e-commerce declining. Other CBD markets trend, Brightfield noted. More CBD makers are adding other cannabinoids and functional ingredients to their products in order to position themselves for distinct needs, such as weight loss or menstrual support. Wow.
Tinctures remain the largest product segment in the CBD market by sales at 19.2%. But gummies, drinks, and other edibles are likely to gain market share. As Gomez put it, consumers are attracted to any CBD format that is less than an objectively wide product than a sublingual tincture. Even those who are heavier users are shifting to that gummy format.
And the market share for the top 20 CBD companies shrank slightly during the first quarter of 2022 from 18.9 to 18.5%. Brightfield attributes the slight change to supply chain issues and slowing consolidation. E-commerce will remain the top sales channel for CBD in 2022 at 39.2%. Pharmacies comes next at 19.5% of sales, followed by CBD specialty retailers at 10.7% of sales. Gomez doesn't see specialty CBD retail going away. People are starting to go back into the world again, and some really do prefer to talk to someone about the products, and me included.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 But with that, that's the first 5 stories. It's medication time, which means we're going to go hear from our sponsors. Glenn and I are going to be right back after the break. You're watching us, Glenn and I, the Reefer Reporters, and we are here live on the Pace Radio Network YouTube channel and our Facebook pages. See you in a second.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
Hi folks, Scott from stfattiesday.com here, and we're absolutely stoked to tell you about our brand new program called Pass the Peace Pipe and our partnership with Legacy 420 out of Tyndonega. We are absolutely proud to be partners with these people. They are an amazing group that have helped so many people with their amazing cannabis medicinal products. And we are working together to gather funds to build the first ever Indigenous-specific opioid addiction center here in the Bay of Quinte area on Tyndonega land. So we need your help. We need you to repost this video and go to our GoFundMe campaign, because on this October 17th, St. Fatty's Day, we are going to be starting the campaign where we pass the peace pipe from one side of the country to another to unite our country, to gather awareness, but most importantly, funds to build opioid addiction centers across the nation, one build at a time.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Okie dokie. We are back from our medication session and we are the Reefer Reporters. If you miss our live shows, and we are live, that's about to be proven, don't forget that they are available afterwards as a podcast at our website, reeferreporters.com plus paceradio.net. We are just making sure we have all the stories in order to prove that we are live, because we had a little mix up, but that's okay. And I ran to the washroom and didn't get back in time to click buttons, so I am clicking buttons. Pardon me. So we are heading over again to Mugglehead Magazine. MJ Biz Daily. Oh my good Lord, I'm not even getting the right magazines. DC to crack down on marijuana gifting stores.
Okay, 1 sec here. Regulators in Washington, D.C. will start cracking down on gray market cannabis gifting stores, as they're known, beginning next month. According to DCS, the city's Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Administration will begin inspecting such stores for health code, tax, and licensing violations with a new joint cannabis task force comprised of multiple agencies. The crackdown could have a significant impact on DC's thriving cannabis gray market, which is propped up in the wake of adult use legalization for possession and consumption in 2014. A former regulated industry in the district has been blocked by Congress ever since. Wow.
Also legalized in the time was the practice of gifting cannabis from one adult to another, which gave rise to overpriced mainstream goods such as t-shirts, which are accompanied by cannabis goods. The city's medical cannabis business, DC has 7 licensed MMJ dispensaries, claim that gray market operators are breaking the law and represent unfair competition, DC has reported. But the gifting operators, dubbed I-71 stores, after the initiative that legalized cannabis in the district, say they're in compliance with relevant city codes.
But the ABRA news release warns that businesses in violation may be subject to a fine or other enforcement action permitted by the statutory authority of each respective enforcement agency. This is the latest in a string of attempts by city authorities to rein in the gray market, DCS reported. It sounds like this is everywhere in the States because federally legal and states make it legal. It's a mess is what it is.
It sure is. It is. It's if the government would get on it down there and legalize it, it would help not just them, but of course our banking up here in Canada, because we follow a lot of our banking laws follow them. I mean, they're scared to deal with cannabis businesses because they would lose business down in the States. So it's it's a frustrating thing to watch not happen, if that makes sense.
It is, especially when they've been promised for years that it's going to change, but never changes.
Yeah, it gets so far and then bam, shut down. Yeah. Okay, we are heading over to Medical Cannabis Brief, remembering Olivia Newton-John's courageous medical cannabis advocacy. Rest in peace.
And don't let little Miss Sandra D fool you. Dame Olivia Newton-John was a fan of that good green. Yesterday, the award-winning movie star and musical hitmaker passed away peacefully at home. In addition to her many hits, including Grease, Xanadu, and songs like Physical, Newton-John also leaves behind a legacy of medical cannabis advocacy.
She sure does. Yeah, beautiful lady.
Yeah.
Newton-John openly supported the legalization of medical cannabis in both her native Australia and the U.S., where she had lived for over 40 years. Not only was she a passionate advocate, but she was also unapologetic about her personal plant consumption. Medical cannabis is something that should be available to everyone who is going through chronic illness or has pain, she told Australian Who magazine, per the Daily Mail. She was so passionate, in fact, that the star held meetings with policymakers, spoke at conferences about legalization, and poured her resources into funding plant medicine and cancer research.
She was a loud and proud medical cannabis patient. In 2019, Newton-John shared with Good Housekeeping how important cannabis was to managing her cancer symptoms. She was first diagnosed in 1992 and most recently in 2017. Like many patients, even with legal access, she was hesitant to try cannabis due to stigma. But her husband, Amazon herb company founder, John Easterling, convinced her to give it a go. Fun fact, they met while on an ayahuasca retreat in Peru. Wow.
Ayahuasca retreat in Peru.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an amazing spirit medicine, primarily made up of DMT, actually, NN-DMT, and it's made into a tea that you drink.
Right.
And you go off on hours and hours long spiritual enlightenment, and it's beautiful. I didn't realize that she had gone on an ayahuasca retreat and taken such an amazing medicine. She created the remedies that he made from cannabis grown on their farm in California for her physical and mental wellness, crediting its benefits to Andy Cohen on What Happens Live back in 2020. It really helped me with pain, with sleep, with anxiety, and I believe with inflammation, she explained. She also used cannabis to replace morphine after fracturing herself in 2018, saying, "I'm totally off painkillers. I'm totally off morphine, and I attribute that to cannabis."
And her medical advocacy spanned far further than just medical cannabis and herself. Newton-John literally helped found a hospital in Australia, the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness and Research Center, to discover and develop breakthrough cancer therapies. She also created the Olivia Newton-John Foundation Fund to support research and documentation of plant-based medicines like cannabis. Her positivity, resiliency, and advocacy inspire patients internationally. Despite huge recent studies in international cannabis legalization, or strides, not studies, many people still associate the plant with deviance or adverse effects. Newton-John herself shared with Good Housekeeping that she was a little nervous because I don't like the feeling of any kind of mind-altering thing, but I started out very slowly, and it's really helped me greatly.
Yeah. I still remember when I first found out Olivia Newton-John was a medical cannabis patient. I had just begun reporting on cannabis and still had a lot of stigma in me, even after experiencing the healing properties of cannabis myself. There's something about a celebrity you looked up to as a kid talking about a cannabis as a patient without shame. She didn't just use the plant for fun. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Rather, she was able to use cannabis to manage her illness in a meaningful way and had the courage to share her story with the world. Learning about her advocacy had given me the permission that I hadn't been able to grant myself, that it was okay to find relief in medical cannabis.
The effects of medical cannabis on cancer are still being studied. The scientific evidence on cannabis and cancer continues to evolve, with new research emerging in real time. While more research is needed, preliminary evidence that cannabis can help with pain, inflammation, and nausea looked promising. There's also interesting research on I'm missing part of the story here.
Yeah. It seems to be that we've lost half a sentence there.
Yeah. Sorry about that. These kinds of findings wouldn't be possible without vocal advocacy from cannabis activists like Olivia. With legalization comes not only more access and education, but more resources to keep studying its potential. So if you love cannabis, roll one up tonight with the legendary Olivia Newton-John.
Absolutely. And honestly, when I picked this story, I didn't think that it was going to be this kind of story. I didn't have a chance to read anything before we came on air. This was a really great story.
I had no idea that she was such a strong advocate. I never really followed her,
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I'm really glad she did, though.
Yeah. And I knew that she was an advocate. I knew that she used it to fight and beat cancer the first time. And I knew that she was using it this time, but I really didn't realize that she was into all of the natural meds like that. Like, I mean, she, met her husband on an ayahuasca retreat, and that was a long time ago, right?
She was the one who developed her own medicines with his help, I guess, with the genetics and things. But that's pretty fascinating.
And she's taking it down to Australia. That's one of the hardest countries to get it legalized in. They've got it's been a huge fight for them. And well, I knew she was a great lady, but she was greater than I realized. Wow. Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah.
Now we are heading over to my favorite publication. I don't know why, but I absolutely love this publication, The Fresh Toast. Anyway, so I love saying it. Anyway, so I guess I just do. Smoking pot makes you 55% less likely to develop this deadly cancer.
While the study revealed that patients with cannabis abuse were 55% less likely to have HCC compared to patients without cannabis abuse. I don't know what cannabis abuse is.
Yeah, I was going to say, we need to drop that abuse word. That's terrible.
The researchers highlighted that this only confirms correlation and that they could not definitively confirm direct causation. users have 55% fewer chances of developing one of the most common malignancies. I can't say it. Malignancies worldwide, hepatocellular carcinoma, according to a study published this year in the medical journal Curious.
HCC is considered the fourth leading cause of cancer deaths in the world, and based on a study that analyzed data from millions of people in the National Inpatient Sample, the NIS database, cannabis consumers have highly significantly lower chances of developing this disease. Researchers from Georgetown University Hospital and the Cleveland Clinic, who led the study, said that the association between HCC and cannabis has already been noted in ice, but to their knowledge, it hasn't yet been confirmed in ice. It must have been in mice, but to their knowledge, it hasn't been yet confirmed in humans.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I was trying to figure that one out for a minute.
Yeah, nice.
The study uses data from the NIS database between 2002 and 2014 and included a total of 101.23 million patients. Wow. Where do you get a 0.23 patients? How does that work out?
Well, it's 101.23 million. So
okay.
230,000.
I was reading that wrong. Out of the total of 996,290 were patients who consume cannabis, while the control group with no cannabis usage included 100.23 million
people.
Okay.
It must be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just well, yeah.
And we noticed that patients with cannabis abuse were younger, who are 34 to 48 years, had more males, which is 61 compared to, or 61.7 compared to 41.4, and more African Americans, 29.9 versus 14.2, compared with the control group. Besides, patients with cannabis use had more hepatitis B, hepatitis C, liver cirrhosis, and smoking, but had less obesity and gallstones, the authorities said.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I would like to see the details on this. This is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And while the study revealed that patients with cannabis use were 55% less likely to have HCC compared with patients without cannabis use, the researchers highlighted that this only confirms correlation and that they could not definitely confirm direct causation. We suggest prospective clinical studies to further understand the mechanism by which various active ingredients, particularly CBD in cannabis, may possibly regulate HCC development, they wrote.
It's almost like they have something against cannabis before they started the study by saying cannabis abuse. It's a weird thing. I've never heard that in a story.
No, this is the first time. I mean, like, I've been with the station besides the hiatus for about 2 years, and this is the first time I've read something so mean.
It's a very weird way to put it. Cannabis abuse, is that like if I use it twice a day, is that abuse? I don't understand what they're trying to say here.
I don't know, but if it's gonna prevent HCC, how much do I need to consume or smoke to be considered abusing it and therefore fighting HCC?
Yeah, very strange. Yeah. We suggest prospective clinical studies to further understand the mechanisms by which various active ingredients, particularly CBD in cannabis, may possibly regulate hepatocellular carcinoma development, they wrote. And while the study does not confirm that cannabis can keep people's lives safer from HCC, other recent studies are closely in line with the suggestion. In April, the biotech company CanFight Biopharma completed preclinical studies demonstrating cannabinoid-based therapies stop liver cancer growth. The studies showed that CBD-rich T3 and C15 cannabis fraction inhibited the growth of live HEP3B, hepatocellular carcinoma cells, via the A3AR by inhibiting
the jumpins.
Regulatory pathways. The company's lead drug candidate, namodonidine, is expected to enter phase 3 study in the fourth quarter of 21. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, previous studies on cannabis and cancer have looked at colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, and breast cancer. And they tell you about the studies that they've done there, most in April of 2022, as I see, which is pretty cool. So you can take a look at that if you want to. Wow, yeah, the fresh toast never disappoints.
Good article, very weirdly phrased in certain things.
Yeah, weird. It's weird that they would use that language, because I really, like I said, I've been following them for a while, and it's the first article that's come out of them like that.
I don't think it's Mugglehead's language. It sounds like it's the language that the producers of the study were using.
Yeah, it would have to be. It would have to be. So we are heading over now to News Medical Life Sciences. Adults who use cannabis daily do not perceive smoking it as harmful, the study finds.
A growing number of Americans are using cannabis as it becomes legalized for recreational use in a rapidly increasing number of U.S. states. Questions abound about the impact legalization will have on adult and youth health. A new study led by Dr. Rennie Goodwin, who's a professor at CUNY Graduate School of Public Health and Health Policy, shows the increased cigarette use is one possibility. While cigarette use has been declining for decades in the U.S., a new study finds that adults who use cannabis daily do not perceive smoking a pack a day as being as harmful as those who do not use cannabis in the U.S. In the context of recent findings that perception of risk plays a key role in predicting substance use, and that perception of risk associated with cannabis use has declined steadily along with legalizations. These findings are somewhat of a surprise. They surprise me because I don't know anybody who's a cannabis smoker that's a normal, regular cigarette smoker. Very few.
I know all kinds, sadly. But the majority of the cannabis smokers I know are non-smokers or ex-smokers, right? To me, this is making me think that the scientists out there are desperately reaching to find a negative about cannabis, right?
I think you're right.
That's what it makes me think of, right? The researchers used data from adults age 18 and older in the 2020 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, a representative survey of U.S. individuals. Participants' responses to a question asking how much people risk harming themselves physically and in other ways by smoking one or more packs of cigarettes per day were compared between those who use cannabis daily and those who did not use cannabis in the past year. 62% of adults who use cannabis daily perceive a pack of cigarettes used to be a great risk to health, compared to 73% of those who did not use cannabis in the past year.
Tobacco control has done a tremendous job in public education on the physical health risk associated with tobacco use, and cigarette smoking in particular. Over the past several decades, says Goodwin, also an adjunct professor at Columbia Mailman School of Public Health. Her prior work shows that cigarette use, however, is much more common among those who use cannabis, and findings suggest that cannabis legalization may lead to increases in cannabis use and cannabis cigarette co-use among adults. Dr. Goodwin discussed her work, in particular that of Canadian colleagues, at a recent public hearing for a law that would ban cannabis packaging that appeals to children in New York's Suffolk County. Findings from recent studies in Canada, where cannabis is legal on a federal level, show increases in adult cannabis use, but as the most recent study of 2022, no significant increases in cannabis use among adolescents.
Interesting.
There shouldn't be any increase. I have 5 children. I had no problem with any of my kids ever accessing any cannabis or anything of that sort that I've ever had. I keep it so they can't touch it. That's it.
Yeah, it's really not that hard with education, especially, right?
Yep. And I'm very open. I've been open my whole life with my kids about it.
Yep, for sure. The data suggests that plain packaging is one measure that can maximize the safe and effective rollout of cannabis legalization that ensures and protects the health, safety, and well-being of all members of our community, Goodwin said. Prohibiting product packaging that mimics foods and candies that are traditionally marketed to children may reduce potential unintended harms to the most vulnerable members of our community via accidental ingestion, I won't say the other word, which have exploded in number in recent years in the U.S. and child and adolescent intentional use of these products. You know, and I have to say that when we were heading into legalization here in Canada, one of the biggest things that was talked about was the fact that you can get packaging for your gummies that look like the same packaging that's on the shelves for non-infused items. And I do agree that that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I want to know that if I'm buying Coke bottles that have, you know, THC in them or whatever, I want to be able to see that on the package. Like, you know, like,
yes, I think that's definitely that's a consumer safety thing, and I definitely go with it. Where I kind of draw the line is they eliminate flavors, like with vape flavors. They eliminate the flavors because kids might like the flavor, and it's you know what I mean. I have a problem where they're going to eliminate gummies from us because kids might like the flavor of the gummies.
Whereas what they should be doing is just changing the labeling, saying, you know, like, this bag contains gummy-like medicine.
You can put a big X right across the whole thing if you want, you know?
Something that says THC versus the candy, right? I mean, I agree with that, right? I have sadly seen a couple of kids ingest the wrong stuff because it just wasn't marked properly. And not that they were harmed, but they didn't want to go there yet.
Of course.
And they should, I mean, things should be marked properly for that. And we should all take more, like, better care. And the governments, you know, if they can focus on that, I think would be good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Logic to me.
So I'm clicking buttons over here. I stopped clicking buttons and started talking, which was silly because then it left me here where I am behind on clicking buttons. But as Al tells me, I am supposed to say, hey, Glenn, you know what time it is? I love it. That worked really, really well. We're heading over to Mugglehead Magazine. Optimi Health partners with Patient Advocate to launch new psilocybin product.
Yep. Optimi Health Corp is partnering up with psilocybin patient advocate Thomas Hartle and his charity to release a psilocybin product made for patients. On Tuesday, the Canadian Psychedelics Company announced the partnership with Hartle in commemoration of the 2-year anniversary of Hartle being one of Canada's first applicants to be approved to use psilocybin for medical purposes. The company will donate proceeds of sales directly to Hartle's charity for facilitating patient access to psilocybin-assisted therapy. I think this is a great thing. I love it.
So exciting. The company and Hartle will host a virtual press conference scheduled for yesterday at 1 p.m., where the details of the partnership and the new product will be discussed. Honestly, until I started receiving my psilocybin-assisted therapy treatments 2 years ago, I wasn't sure if I could handle the daily stress of knowing that I was dying, said Hartle. Having a therapeutic psilocybin product made in my honor, which I have never considered as a possibility, gives me pause to reflect on how many have lost their battles before ever experiencing the amazing benefits of psilocybin therapy.
I'm excited to be partnering with Optimi to provide the opportunity to the people who need it most. The hope that they will receive the same life-restoring gift that I have experienced. Honoring Thomas's incredible optimism and appreciation for life with his own natural Canadian-grown psilocybin product is something we will cherish as a company forever, said Bill Ciprick, CEO of Optimi Health. We share Thomas's energy and passion for creating the perfect psilocybin experience, and we look forward to providing a vital service to special access program patients while further demonstrating to regulators that psychedelic-assisted therapies can be integrated into our existing healthcare framework.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so awesome to see this stuff happening. You know, I have used psilocybin I still use psilocybin to help me greatly. And, and we're waiting for the public release of dose 2, which follows one of the Canadians that was given permission to do this. And it follows her, it follows her journey with psilocybin and using the therapy to face her, her death date that the doctors gave her. Yeah.
I'd be interested in experimenting with it. I haven't used psilocybin since I was a teenager, and it was not for therapy back then.
Yeah. Well, I see a lot of this stuff that with cannabis, a lot of us, before we realized it was a medicine, we look back and go, oh, well, even though I was doing it for fun, I was still medicating. And I see a lot of the psychedelics as the same thing. Like, you look back and go, okay, well, 20, 30 years ago, I was doing a lot of mushrooms, but I was doing it to get high and laugh with my friends. But if you take a look at that and then take a look at the week after while you were working compared to other weeks where you didn't do psilocybin crazy on the weekends, I bet you're going to say, hey, you know what? I was happier in that week.
I wish I knew. I can't tell you. I don't have the memory to know what the week after was like. I just know that I've only ever had pleasant experiences with it. I've never had a bad experience with it.
Yeah. And psychedelics, one of the things that I've learned about psychedelics is they take you where you need to heal. And that's why some people have bad experiences, because they're not ready to go where they're being taken to heal yet.
Makes sense.
So even bad experiences aren't bad. If you allow that logic that the medicine is taking you to where you need to heal. And once you heal, the experience becomes amazing. It may not feel that way when you're going through it, but once you get there, it's pretty phenomenal.
Well, that's why it's called healing. It doesn't feel good on the way there.
That's right. That's right. And with that, we have done our 10 stories. So for today, August 11th, I had to look back over there. That's our Reefer Report from the Legacy420.com news desk. And in closing, we'd like to say thank you for watching, and thank you to our sponsors, bmahydroponics.com, Dr. Buck, cts.com, legacy420.com, and the Campbellford Lifestyle shop in Campbellford. See you guys all next Thursday. Thanks for joining us.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. Visit our hydroponics superstore at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, and we'll show you how to grow your own quality cannabis for pennies per gram. We're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Thursdays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Call 613-967-9888. BMA Hydroponics. It's worth the drive.
The only way to go.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains. And when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.